What's going on, guys? I'm Tyler, and I'm here to let you know that Parasite in black and white is no perfect movie. And having seen it 3 times in theaters now, I can safely say it's the exact same movie that you had already seen before. There are no new characters, there are no special edition sequences from George Lucas, or from that HBO miniseries that allegedly is supposed to happen. I'm not entirely sure. But filming this in black and white takes things that you wouldn't really notice in a colorized version, like lighting, production design, costume design, things that for most casual audiences just disappear in the background, and makes them just as, if not more important storytelling techniques than acting and dialogue. One thing that I noticed watching throughout the movie, right from the opening shot, is that whenever a sequence takes place from the Kim family's perspective when they're in their semi basement home or in their neighborhood, there are darker shades of black and gray and a lot more shadows that illustrate just how dreary of a living situation that they're in compared to the Park family that's, for lack of a better term, looking a lot more glamorous in comparison. Light is bouncing off characters' skins, their clothes, their furniture. Everything looks as pristine and perfect as you would expect an upper class lifestyle to look like, especially through the costume design, which I kind of noticed upon second viewing of the colorized version anyways, but in this one it makes the rich Park family's black and white costumes stand out a lot more compared to the Kim family's mainly not necessarily strictly black, but they wear a lot more black and gray clothing that really does differentiate which character is rich or poor. And with the Kim family, there are a lot more symbolic references that I actually hadn't noticed the first 2 times around, namely how windows are used as metaphors for trapping them. Because from the opening shot, the window of their semi basement really does look like jail bars, and seeing jail bars portrayed in black and white just makes it look a lot more gritty and realistic. But whenever they're in the Park's home and they're staring at their own reflection through a window, or they're hiding behind a window as they're trying to escape the house once shit really gets serious in the second half, the way that the cinematography and the staging of the actors, it really does make it feel like they're trapped inside a glass box. So they're either trapped inside a glass box or they're trapped behind a cage, because no matter what they do, no matter what cons they try to make, at the end of the day, they're still at the bottom of the food chain. They're still lower class. And it makes it feel a lot more complex visually and symbolically. And it was such a treat to see on the big screen. And the costume design even kind of differentiates the Park family from one another in regards to their personalities. Mrs. Park is an incredibly dumb character, and the all-white clothing that she usually wears does make her seem a lot more innocent in regards to how dumb and naive she is, versus Mr. Park, who does wear a white collar shirt because dude is gullible. He is falling for the family's con after all. But the black suit that he's wearing makes him stand out as being a hell of a lot more dominant as the head of the household, especially when he's in the car with Mr. Kim and is basically insulting his own wife behind his back and making it clear that he does kind of view her more as an object, a woman to have sex with, a woman to have kids and successors, as opposed to someone that you actually love. And I kind of knew that I was going to experience things that I hadn't seen the first 2 times around because, again, this was my third time seeing it. The first time, part of the reason I didn't notice that much was because I was too busy noticing half of my audience show up late. Needless to say, it was full of people who had never been in a movie theater that wasn't a Landmark or a Cineplex or a Regal, so that part was really annoying for the first 10 minutes, but it didn't get in the way of my enjoyment of the film. Even though first time around I did think it went on for a little too long, having seen it over and over again, that feeling has gone away now that I realize what Bong Joon-ho was trying to say with his film. And the second time around, it was a lot more suspenseful because now that I knew who the housekeeper was, I had my eyes on her the entire time, and the anticipation became a lot more dreadful to watch and pay attention on screen. But the most interesting thing about it, seeing it for the second time after it had won Best Picture, was that I had seen it with a casual audience who had never seen a movie in subtitles up until A Quiet Place, let alone a movie from South Korea. But they were treating it as any other movie. They were gasping. They had their mouths over they had their hands over their mouths because they had absolutely no idea what was going on. They could not believe what they had seen. and it gave me more faith in modern audiences. I felt absolutely great, and that was one of the key motivations for why I wanted to see it in black and white. I wanted to see that type of reaction from audiences again, and I wanted to discover more things for myself. I wanted to see if there were even more bits of foreshadowing that I had never even noticed the first two times around. And I definitely did thanks to the black and white photography, especially when the Kim's son picks up the Scholar Stone as their house is being flooded. The light is flickering on and off in that one room, and the room is divided by a wall. And on the other side of the wall, Mr. Kim is there. And that does kind of foreshadow the end of the movie, the last scene that the two of them have together. And I could not believe that I had missed that the first couple of times. So, yeah, when I heard that my art house theater was going to play a black and white version, I was so surprised that I didn't even think they were going to get it. So, I got my ticket in March, and thankfully when they reopened, they honored and respected the fact that I had already bought my ticket. So, that part was a real treat. Now, there is one thing that I think the black and white version loses as opposed to the colorized version, is that whenever there are scenes of violence, it doesn't really feel as impactful and or funny. And I kind of have that problem with black and white versions of colorized movies. I own Logan Noir, which almost everything about Logan Noir looks aesthetically, visually so much better than the colorized version, except for the Wolverine and Laura fights. And that's because the blood doesn't really stand out because it looks gray and it doesn't look as exciting or intense. And I felt that way when the Kim family was fighting with the housekeeper and her husband, and in the finale at the birthday party. I still felt the stakes because I wanted to see these characters come out, even though I knew for a good chance the majority of them weren't. But it didn't really feel as exciting because blood doesn't really look good in black and white, at least for me personally. But that is really just a nitpick, and it's the only negative I can think of, because if I'm being honest, I could find symbolic representation in the subtitles, the color of the subtitles. I have my buddy Josh from the Joshcast, who is manager at the Princess, and he told me there was one thing he didn't like about the black and white version. He didn't understand why the subtitles were orange. And when he said that, I thought, really? I thought the subtitles were going to be like gold or yellow for gold and greed and such. And I also thought, gee, why couldn't they do red subtitles for rage? And I thought, oh, red and yellow. Okay, yeah, orange has greed and rage. I don't think anyone's used orange like that before. I don't think anyone's combined colors to put two themes together in a movie. At least, if it has, I haven't seen that movie yet. So if you've seen other movies that have done that, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, the fact that I could find the color of subtitles in a black and white movie symbolic of something, I'm not sure if that was by accident or if Bong Joon-ho really is that big of a nerd, but needless to say, that little thing pays off, and it's what makes Parasite an equal to the colorized version. I can't really say that it's better because, again, the most intense scenes, the parts that have you really gripping your fists and feeling sorry for the characters the most, does lose some steam because the colors can't stand out. But it does take things that most audiences do not pay attention to with any color or black and white movie. The costumes, the sets, the lighting, things that all play an equal part to the acting, the writing, and the direction. If there is a local theater by you that is reopened, and if it's playing Parasite in black and white, definitely check it out. You'll have just as, if not maybe a better time, because the problem I had with it, you might not even have for yourself. So, for all those reasons, I'm going to give Parasite Black and White the exact same grade as the colorized Parasite, a 4 out of 5. Needless to say, check it out. If you're that big of a nerd and you have it downloaded or such, maybe switch it to black and white on your laptop. You might get something out of it. I don't know. Anyways, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you have seen Parasite in black and white, and what did you think about it. Be sure to let me know, be sure to stay tuned for more Studio Ghibli reviews, and be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.